Hello and welcome to the commercial location criteria study for stakeholders. This format will be as follows. We have a presentation that will be given by Nicholas Hill. At a certain point in time, there will be question and answers where then we will unmute everyone and you will be able to then ask questions. At any point in time, feel free to enter chats or questions in your chat box, and they will be looked at as well. With no further ado, Nicholas.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Lionel. I really appreciate that. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Hill. As was mentioned earlier, you're here, hopefully, for the Hillsborough County Planning Commission's commercial locational criteria, which we often abbreviate to CLC, update project. This is the third stakeholder meeting, the last of the 3 stakeholder meetings that we have held as part of this process. And let's go ahead and get started. So on the agenda today, we'll be finishing introductions. And then right before that, though, we're going to talk a little bit about and give you a bit of a background on the commercial locational criteria. Talk a bit about the findings of the research and analysis process conducted thus far, and also what are the next steps in that process. And then we're going to go into the public engagement opportunities associated with this project, as well as the project schedule. And then we're finally going to close out with a big discussion where we're going to listen directly to you and understand what are your goals, priorities, objectives, ideas, and perspectives regarding this important project. And then finally, just to close out today, we're going to the next immediate steps. So just to finish introductions, my name is Nicholas Hill. I'm a staff planner here at SNME. I tend to specialize in comprehensive planning, community engagement, and GIS mapping. And I'll be leading you through the presentation today. I'm also joined here by our planning director, Patricia Tajewski. Pat, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning. Thank you for attending our meeting this morning. My name is Pat Tajewski, like Nick mentioned, and I'm with SNME, a landscaping on our landscape architecture and engineering film. I'm tongue-tied this morning. I'm sorry. And that's about it. Thanks.
Staff, if you don't mind, since you're all happy and here in attendance, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Melissa Leinhard. I'm an executive planner with the Planning Commission, and I'm the liaison to unincorporated Hillsborough County for our team. Andrea?
Yep. Good morning, everybody. Andrea Papandrew. I'm a planner with the Planning Commission. I work with Melissa Leinhard and her team with consistency reviews for developments, and I'm excited that everybody can join us today.
Excellent. And I would say we should introduce everyone here because we do have about 13 attendees in attendance. However, that may take a little bit of time. So we may come back around to that and see how many attendees we have by the end, because more people may be joining us as this meeting goes on, as they transition from Microsoft Teams over here to go to webinar. So we'll hold off on that for now. Okay, so in case you need a refresher, the commercial locational criteria, or remember the CLC, is a set of requirements established under Objective 22 of the future land use element of the comprehensive plan. And to keep it simple enough, just like the name implies, the CLC, or the commercial locational criteria, is intended to ensure that residents can meet their daily needs for goods and services within a reasonable distance from their neighborhood. Commercial activities are integrated seamlessly into nearby residential neighborhoods, and that new commercial, which services nearby neighborhoods, do not require a comprehensive plan amendment. Now, if that sounds a little like planner speak, it really means that, say, if a small neighborhood serving convenience store, coffee shop, or something along those same lines wants to locate within a portion of the county that's currently designated as residential on the future land use map, which is a portion of the comprehensive plan, they would not be expected to go through that whole comprehensive plan amendment process, which anyone in the development community would know adds considerable amount of time to the whole development review process. So it kind of clears some of those barriers for you.
As long as they meet certain standards.
Of course, the commercial locational criteria. that are established within the comprehensive plan. But before moving on, I think it's really important that we establish that this particular effort is really focusing on more of the neighborhood scale or the smallest type of commercial service area. And neighborhood scale commercial activities, they typically just serve the immediate area and are generally close enough to maybe walk or bike to, if you so choose. Maybe not in the heat of, summer in Florida, but, if the weather was a little bit nicer, maybe in a few months or so, yes, you would be able to make that walk or bike. This may include things like coffee shops, some retail, maybe a neighborhood convenience store, or even a gas station, which services the immediate neighborhood. In addition, there's also community service areas, which those are more like your Publixes, your standard Walmarts. They serve several neighborhoods. Where the regional area, they can be attractors of anyone not only within the city in which they're located, but also nearby cities, and sometimes even up to the scale of nearby counties as well, such as like IKEA. Now, a commercial locational criteria for any community is great in theory, but one thing that we really have to consider and regulate potentially are accessibility, mobility, and connectivity requirements. Because if you don't, you could have a radically different outcome if left unchecked. So for example, let's look at one community called Bakersfield. Bakersfield is in California. And they have a suburban development pattern, some of which can be found here in the county and through several other developed counties throughout the state. If you don't mind me, I'm going to zoom in a bit here. So, for example, say you are located on this cul-de-sac right here in Glen Lakes Court, and you are making dinner tonight, and oh, you forgot the pasta sauce for your delicious homemade pasta. Well, that's fine because you have an Albertsons located right next to you. That's great. It's within 500 feet, in fact, of your house. But unfortunately, the way the commercial locational criteria was designed for this particular community was they decided to provide 0 connections into the neighborhood, which means that if the person living on Glen Lakes Court in that little cul-de-sac right next to the Albertsons wanted to get that pasta sauce, they couldn't just walk through the fence. Obviously, they're barred by a fence, landscaping, buffering. That would actually cause them to walk back out the other direction, away from Glen Lakes Court, down Masters Way, to Eagles Landing Drive, all the ways out to Olive Drive, and all the ways up through a parking lot designed for vehicles into the Albertsons parking lot. Now, they can drive there as well, but that would take also some considerable time getting out on that major roadway and going into the store as well. So what could be a breezy, nice 4-minute walk turns out to be a 4 or 5 minute drive and a 15 to 20 minute walk instead. So that's one way you can approach the commercial locational criteria and choose not to regulate those kind of accommodations for pedestrians and cyclists. Or you can also just do it, for example, like the city of Orlando in this particular case in this historic neighborhood. So in this example, as you can see here, it's integrated right here on the corner. And instead of only allowing certain access points, maybe making it difficult to get to by any other mode choice other than car, you can actually get to this in numerous ways from any of the surrounding neighborhoods. So 500 feet here doesn't require you to go out to another road, up and around to another series of roads, out to a major collector, and then get back on here into Amelia Street and into the lot. Instead, you can just leave your house, make 2 directional changes from west to north or east to north, and you can actually just access the site no matter what your mode of choice, via car or even preferably walking or biking. There is a significant difference, like we're saying, in terms of accessibility, connectivity, and mobility in terms of how these particular facilities are set up. And you can see that actually makes a direct change in how these particular buildings are interacting and how they look within your community. So for example, the Albertsons doesn't look necessarily ingrained into that neighborhood. It's closing itself off from that neighborhood. Its designs are relatively different. It's definitely its own separate segmented portion of that neighborhood. It's not meant to be integrated. It's meant to close its door off to everything around it, and you can only access it through those driveways and access points where you have to go out of the neighborhood and come back in to that parking lot. Alternatively, the Lake Eola General Store here can be accessed in a numerous of ways. It's tied directly into the neighborhood. It's integrated harmoniously. If you were to take out those planters out in front, or maybe some of those umbrellas, and maybe take down that canopy, it would look like just like any other building in the community. So those are two very different styles of integration into our neighborhoods, one being not so integrated and one being highly integrated. And of course, they're just different styles for different scenarios. And one thing that should be noted, these are at different scales. The Albertsons definitely serves a community area, while the neighborhood commercial use down below in Orlando definitely serves that more immediate neighborhood. But there's still important considerations to make in terms of how you want your commercial to look within your neighborhood and your community. All right, so there are plenty of opportunities for improvements as part of this effort that we've already been working out with staff and discovering on our own. The first one is we want to revise the outdated language that's currently in the commercial locational criteria. It was written a little while ago. We just want to update it to make sure it reflects what the city, or sorry, what the Planning Commission wants, what's the community desires to see for it, and we'll explain that in a few seconds. We also want to identify ways to limit the frequency of waiver requests, because as we know, staff has received quite a few of those in relation to developers coming in and wanting to do a certain thing, and it does not meet the requirement of the commercial locational criteria, so they do have to seek those waiver requests. And three, like I was mentioning earlier, we do want to reflect the current realities of the commercial marketplace and the community's desire for more pedestrian, bicycle, and transit opportunities. And then also, we want to ensure standards are in place to require a more harmonious integration into nearby neighborhoods. Just like I was talking before, we want to make sure that if these commercial facilities are located near or adjacent or within our neighborhoods, it's a seamless transition from these commercial uses into our more residential areas of our communities, but still able to serve them effectively to meet their daily needs. So we have our objectives laid out in front of us that we talked about on the previous slide. And as you can see, it's a pretty sizable effort. But luckily, we don't have to reinvent the wheel of what we should be looking to update. The community itself, via the county's wealth of planning documents, such as your comprehensive plan, your livable communities element more specifically, they've already been given us a lot of direction on how this commercial locational criteria should look. And so what direction have they given us? Well, they want us to address transportation and access issues related to these facilities. We also want to accommodate for pedestrians, cyclists, and transit users. We want to support the creation and retention of town centers within our individual communities where commercial activity tends to be focused. We also want to implement the commercial location criteria only in locations where they're desired by the community. So the livable communities element as a part of the comprehensive plan, there are several communities that said, we don't want commercial activities within our neighborhood. We want them in very condensed areas, maybe at major intersections or at nodes, and not so much close to our neighborhoods. We understand that when we move to the rural area of our county, we are going to have to drive frequently to get to our destination, and we're fine with that. That's exactly why we moved out to the rural area, because we want that privacy, we want that open space, and we don't necessarily need to meet our daily needs by walking to a corner store that's maybe 5 minutes from our house. So we had our objectives established. We know what direction the county and its residents has already given us, but we also wanted to look at some of the other comparable and notable communities and see how they're accomplishing this as well. So we looked at a whole bunch of communities as part of this effort, all throughout Florida. Broward County, Manatee County, Miami-Dade, Orange, Palm Beach, and Pasco County. And then we expanded our search nationwide to several counties within Virginia, such as Arlington County, Forsyth, and Richmond, because they have a strong comprehensive planning requirements up there that would cause them to think upon these ideas and expand them in ways that we could potentially emulate. And also we looked at James City County and even Washington, D.C., since they tend to be fairly progressive on how they look at these issues as well. And so what did we find? Well, we found that few communities permit neighborhoods serving commercial uses within residential areas like Hillsborough County that are capable of serving the daily needs of residents. In addition, where permitted, so these few communities where this is permitted, most of them require a commercial rezoning supplemented with a compatibility, buffering, and locational requirements further established within the comprehensive plan or land development regulations. And finally, those principles such as commercial activities shall be integrated harmoniously into our neighborhoods, or commercial uses shall be buffered appropriately within our neighborhoods. Those tend to be established within the comprehensive plan, while the specific criteria, like those established by Hillsborough County, tend to be delegated to the land development regulations. So Hillsborough County currently has their commercial locational criteria primarily defined within their comprehensive plan. But as we've seen other communities where they do have them, they've kind of delegated that to the land development code and kept the language more broad and more principle-based in the comprehensive plan. Now, as part of the research and analysis process, we have also reviewed over 24 scholarly articles on best practices for neighborhood commercial development. And we've learned a ton of great information from them as well. The first of which, that we need to make sure that the comprehensive plan and land development code has very clear and identified and established criteria for how these types of activities and sites are supposed to be developed. But at the same time, development should be more of a conversation. You know, development needs to be flexible, but it also needs to be a conversation between the neighborhood, staff, and the developer on how we can best integrate these types of uses into our communities where they're desired in the first place. And so making it a little bit more flexible, a little bit more of a conversation base rather than hard and rigid standards, which doesn't reflect the realities on the ground. Additionally, we want to empower the private sector to provide those third places for us when public, especially when public areas aren't available. And what I mean by that is when you're going between work and home, maybe you want to meet a coworker for coffee or meet a friend for dinner. Those are your third places, those important restaurants and coffee shops where you can meet with your fellow community members and really develop that sense of community. Amazon is great. They provide us all this cool tasks and items and gifts, what have you, but they can't replace our third places, those places where we make memories with our community members, with our families, those coffee shops, those neighborhood retail stores that you check in with every once in a while to get your goods, or even a restaurant or retail. And then also we want to explore new planning tools as they become available. Hillsborough County, just like any other community in Florida, but specifically them, likes to be on the forefront, likes to be learning and keeping up to date on what other communities are doing, and if that's appropriate for their community and how we can update the comprehensive plan, land development regulations, or any other planning documents to make sure that they are staying up to the latest and greatest standards that are being applied all over the country. And so one of those that we discovered as part of this process is accessory commercial units. So I'm sure many of you have heard accessory dwelling units, which is an additional dwelling unit that you may be permitted to develop on your single family home or what have you. In certain zoning districts, depending on where you live, an additional dwelling unit, that's a conditional use, meaning you have to meet certain conditions. So that's typically afforded only to dwellings, but increasingly communities across the nation are also researching accessory commercial units. So say they now transition from working from home and have a small office in their house where they meet clients. That would be an accessory commercial unit that may be applicable to apply. That also goes for maybe a small bike store rental place or maybe a very small bakery. These are all options. They're being considered at the current state, but they're currently not in the plan. We are just exploring all of these great ideas that are currently being implemented or at least studied across the nation. So I'm sure you've heard plenty of information so far today, and we'd certainly recommend after this meeting is over, which don't leave yet, you continue to participate in this process and this very important project by going to our project website, which you can access right there using that link. So make sure to write that down, or you can just scan with your phone camera that QR code in the bottom right-hand corner. And we really want you to make sure when you go on the website to post on the community ideal wall. That community ideal wall works kind of like Facebook, where you can go in there, select your topic, just type a post, whatever your thoughts, perspectives, ideas, and opinions on any specific topic related to commercial locational criteria. Within the project website, you can post that. Someone else from your community can come in, upvote, downvote, post a comment on your comment, and you can respond to them and keep the dialogue flowing. We'd also recommend you take part in the public survey. That's very, very important to us. That'll help us draft the language and understand the priorities of the community when helping us do the CLC update and actually getting that first draft out and what that language actually looks like. So in addition to the project website, we also have one planning commission briefing that is supposed to be coming up soon. We have 2 public workshops, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. We have 3 stakeholder sessions. You're currently in the 3rd and final stakeholder sessions. Previously, we met with developers and members of the transportation community. And then also we have 7 briefings with individual members of the Board of County Commissioners. So here's our schedule that I was talking about previously. We have our first workshop, which we highly encourage you to attend and share with your friends, your neighbors, your family, anyone that's invested within the Hillsborough County community to attend. We'll be having more, rolling out even more information about that this week, but it is November 1st, so mark it on your calendar. It is a virtual event, so please prepare for that accordingly. We will provide you more information if you would like on that, or if you have any questions, feel free to go to the project website. There's more information there, or ask staff. And this project is expected to go from September, where we kicked it off, all the way to March and April, where March and April will be actually be adopting the new CLC standards that we develop as part of this update. So we have several months left in this process, but the most important part, which is speaking to the community members just like yourself, is still actively ongoing, with, of course, the next step being the community meetings next, especially in November 1st. So here we are going to begin the discussion. This is the important part of the process where we hear directly from you. We have several polls set up in place because there are so many participants in the room right now. So I actually am going to hand it off to one of my co-workers here, Pat Tajewski, who is actually going to be managing the polling exercise to make sure that we understand precisely your thoughts and opinions and perspectives on commercial activities within your community and how they should be integrated. Pat?
All right, thanks, Nick. All right, so I'm going to display the first question, and then you will have an opportunity to answer it. So, did you know about the commercial locational criteria before you attended this meeting? Any knowledge of it? Whether you knew it existed but didn't know the details, or you had no idea that we even had such a thing? And can everybody see the question on your screens? Raise your hand if you do not for some reason. It looks like people are voting right now, so I'll close it as soon as we have 100% of the votes, not votes, but questions answered. We're at 71% right now. 79. Gonna wait a few more seconds. We're at 86% right now. And I know that maybe not everybody wants to vote or can do it. So at some point we'll stop it and move on because we have a lot of questions. So we have been at 86% for a little while. So I'm going to close that one. And I'm going to share the results. So basically, I have a lot of people who didn't know anything about the commercial locational criteria before coming. So I'm going to go to the next question. So Nick talked about the research that we have conducted so far in terms of reviewing the documents of the community and in terms of looking at what everybody else is doing and articles about this type of this topic. Was there anything in those that surprised you? Anything that, oh, I had no idea that there was such a thing as the accessory commercial units, or I didn't know that we had a livability element that talks about what the communities want in their own neighborhoods. So we are at 43% right now. I'm going to wait a little bit. 57. All the way up to 64%. Okay. 64 looks like we are stopping right there. I'm going to close it. Last chance. Okay. So I'm going to share the result of that one. A lot of people were not surprised about what they heard, but some people were. So that's, you know, this document will be made available eventually to the public so you guys can read it and see the sources that we use. Okay, next question. Are county residents, and this is in your opinion, we're not expecting anybody to be an expert here, but in your opinion, can county residents meet their daily needs, especially for fresh groceries, within a reasonable distance from their homes? And I know that there is a wide variety of character areas in the county, but in general, thinking about the place that you live, do you think that people can walk or bike or maybe drive a short distance to meet their daily needs? And we're at 56% right now voted. We're at 67. 67. Okay. Up, jump to 73. Gonna wait a few more seconds. And I'm gonna close it. Let's look at the results. So most people feel that they can get to their daily needs within a reasonable distance from their homes. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one, which is number 4. And again, this one again is based on your opinion. What about employment? Can most people get to their jobs within a reasonable distance from their homes, or do they have to drive a long distance to get to work? Okay, we're at 47%, 67%. Okay, 67, looks like everybody's probably, okay, 79%. Gonna give a couple more seconds. All right, stopped at 79%. We're gonna share the results. In this case, it's a no. Most people feel that people have to drive a long distance to get to work. Okay, let's go to the next question then. Number 5. What about healthcare? Buying the prescription drugs or going to the doctor, maybe a emergency room. Can they get to these within a reasonable distance from their homes? You know, the CVS's, the freestanding emergency rooms. We are at 43% right now. 57, 64. And just now I'm starting to see some no's, because before that it was a lot of yeses. We're at 79% people voted. Okay, a couple more seconds. Anybody else? And we're closing that one. And the answer overwhelmingly saying yes, they can get to healthcare within a reasonable distance. Okay. Question number 6. In your opinion, can they meet their daily needs for personal services? So now we're talking about getting a haircut, getting nails done, doggy daycare, anything that has to do with places that you have to go in person to have some type of service. Okay, so we are at 57% right now. 64, 71. Okay, leave a couple more seconds. We're at 71% now. If anybody wants to answer. Okay, all right, a couple more seconds and we're going to close it. And close. So most people feel that they do have personal service establishments within reach from their homes. Okay, we have about 5 more to go. So this is number 7. So other than those daily needs, what other types of uses should the commercial locational criteria consider? It could be other types of commercial uses, maybe self-storage, big box retail, or maybe additional medical professional uses, or maybe mixed use, where you have apartments above ground floor commercial, or maybe medical or office above commercial. Are these types of uses something that you think you should have near your residential neighborhoods? Okay, we're at 50% right now. 64%. Okay. 79%, got a couple seconds more to go. Anybody else? All right, we're closing that one. What are the answers? So it looks like the medical professional use, it seems to be the type of use that they would rather see more than other commercial uses like the self-storage or big box retail. That's the least favorite. Okay, going to number 8. Okay, so the question says, if you had the perfect setting, let's say you're going to travel by bicycle, you have beautiful bicycle trails. If you're going to travel by foot, you have beautiful sidewalks and trees, shaded sidewalks. If you had that situation, you can travel safely to the nearby corner store. Which method would you rather use? Would you go by car, bicycle? Would you walk? Would you use a scooter? Or would you use public transit or Uber, Lyft, or any of those? And again, most people don't like to use bicycles in Florida because it is so dangerous. But if you had an opportunity to use a bicycle in a safe environment, would you do that? And this is assuming that it's just, within 15 minutes. We're not sending you, a 30-minute bike ride to go get a loaf of bread. Assuming that it is nearby, it's 15-minute car ride or a 15-minute bike ride or a 15-minute walk. Which method would you use? Okay, so we're about 71 now, 71%. I'm gonna wait a couple more seconds here. Okay, looks like it stopped at 71% people voting, so we're gonna close it. And we're gonna look at the results. So most people would walk. If they had the perfect setting, that would be their preferred mode of transportation. After that, it would be by car. Some people are still wanting to use their car, and not many people want to bike in this group. Looks like several answers included the public transit option. Okay, so number 9, it says, if you have a new commercial use at an intersection near your neighborhood, do you think that that use should be connected to the subdivision nearby, like the example that Nick showed you in Bakersfield? Should that be connected either by a sidewalk, a trail, a driveway, or some method so that you don't have to go all the way out of the neighborhood to go all the way into a shopping center? We're now at 64% voted, 71%, 79. Okay, this one is going faster. So we're gonna close it now. And let's look at the results. So yes, most people believe that those types of uses should be connected to the neighborhood in some manner. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. Almost done, we have 3 more. So this is number 10. It says, okay, so if you have one of these uses, commercial uses near your residential neighborhood, which design techniques do you think should have the highest priority? We understand that you want to get there, but we understand that sometimes you need some type of transition between the homes and the commercial use. So would you rather see landscaping and trees, or maybe utilize building setbacks, using fences and walls, or just connected to the neighborhood? You know, that connection. And this is talking about like priorities, you know, what would be the most important part here? Okay, we're at 57. 71. Okay, a couple more seconds if anybody else wants to answer this one. All right, we're going to close it and share the results. So yeah, a lot of people feel that landscaping and trees could do the trick for that transition. However, you know, we have a large number of people believing that we need to connect to those neighborhoods. Okay, and second to last, number 11. So in terms of the building design, not talking about the distance from the neighborhoods, but the building that is coming in, which techniques should have the highest priority? Maybe building height, or the massing, how big, how bulky the building is, or maybe architectural standards, maybe the design of a grocery store or the convenience store, maybe it needs to resemble the architecture in the nearby neighborhoods. Okay, we're at 29% right now. And when we talk about building height limitations, it would be maybe to make them more consistent with what's around them. And remember, all these commercial locational criteria locations that we talk about, they're located at major intersections. This is not like in the middle of a residential neighborhood. They always have to be at a major intersection. Okay, we're at 64. A few more seconds. Anybody else wants to give us an answer? All right, we're closing it. Okay, so between architectural standards and the massing and the scale seems to be the most important items to address. All right, we're going to the last one, very last question. So how would you like to be notified of future events similar to this one? Sometimes we have a hard time reaching out to some residents. So we're giving a bunch of options here for you to pick from. Would you rather receive an email? Would that be effective? Or would you rather see it online? Maybe when you receive notifications of the Hillsborough County Planning Commission newsletter, maybe by putting it there, would you read it? Would you notice it? Maybe social media. I don't know how many people we have in this group that use social media, Facebook, Twitter, you know, Instagram, whatever people use. Maybe just updates on the Planning Commission website. Some people regularly visit these websites. Would that be enough? Or just on the project website. Like Nick mentioned, we have a website just specifically designed for this project. And we're going to be uploading documents. And we're going to be including the PowerPoint presentations, invitations to workshops, and methods for you to provide input. So how would you like to be updated? So we're at 79% right now. Anybody else? Any other answers? We're good? Okay, we're closing. All right, so the answer is email. A lot of people would like to be notified via email. However, looks like a lot of people also get the newsletter and take a look at it. So, all right. So I think that concludes the discussion portion. Nick, if you want to continue.
Sure. All right, so before we move on to the final section, I just wanted to mention the short-term next steps. As I discussed previously, we are in the middle of the research and analysis process. We've already done the review of local planning documents and the literature review of best practices. Next is going to be the case study analysis, which is the final portion of that process. And we're also going to continue the public engagement. We really love hearing from you all and from the community members. And so that is a big, big priority of us moving throughout the rest of this project. And of course, all of that will lead to the first draft of the update to the commercial locational criteria. And that is all we had for today. That being said, we do have 20 minutes left approximately. So if you do have a quick question or comment or anything you would like to say, feel free to raise your hand down in the chat below. I believe you have that option. And I just want to note, of course, we're not going to probably get a chance to hear from everybody today throughout the duration of the presentation. However, it's really, really important that you put your feedback on the project website, because we will absolutely be looking at that. We look at it every single day to make sure that not only are the comments being posted on there, but that also they're being productive and safe and family friendly. And so we really hope that everyone continues to go on the project website, continues making their comments, and it would be greatly appreciated by the whole team. So, and definitely take the online survey as well and stay up to date on those project updates. So that being said, I will open up the floor to questions or comments.
We have Ralph Greenlee first.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You are.
Okay. I was one of those persons that didn't know anything about this prior to, I guess, this week. And I'm not sure it applies to where we live. We live in Little Manatee South, community of Sundance. Community's been here 49 years. I've been here 41 years. To the west of us is nothing but agriculture. So I didn't see after today that our community needed to be included. No offense intended by saying that, but we have, deed restrictions, and we have all of the things that you need for a community, the southernmost community in Hillsborough County, and I don't see any of these things applying to us. But I'd like to hear that from you based on what I just said, or any questions you want to ask, because I do spend a lot of time working with people at Hillsborough County.
So, hi, Ralph. This is Melissa Leinhard with the Planning Commission. I can help you with that one. So, as long as you're within the jurisdiction of unincorporated Hillsborough County, which Little Manatee South is, this technically would apply to all the properties within unincorporated Hillsborough County. But that being said, it sounds like you have various private mechanisms like deed restrictions that might limit those activities in your particular neighborhood. But just as an overall, this would apply all the way from up Keystone down to Little Manatee. So a very big area, we know. But this is just general. This is broad policy direction for all of unincorporated Hillsborough County. Does that help?
I would skew your results because I couldn't vote on X number of those 12 things. Okay, it didn't make sense. You're not going to put a store inside the community of Sundance. Not going to happen. There's not going to be any building for the next 20 years to the west of us. Not going to happen. Okay, I would skew those results when I know that the community plan codified within the comprehensive plan, the future land use triggers, and I can go on for a while because I know the other Melissa pretty well. And so I don't see it. you can make a policy that it goes from Keystone to Little Manatee South, but just we're not going to be in it. I don't see it.
Sure, I understand that. And likely this would not affect, those properties and other community plans like Lutz or Keystone that have other criteria in their community plan. So I agree with you on that. We just wanted to be very inclusive when we invited everyone and make sure that everyone felt a part of the experience and was able to give the valuable input that we really need on this end to make sure that when we do improve our policy, that we're using all the stakeholder information. So thank you for being here.
Hey,
Could I add some?
I went from not knowing Teams to learning Teams. I went to go to a webinar and I'm good with taking an hour of my life. Okay, I just want to make sure that I've been here 41 years. I know the county, I know the community, I know the area, and I just don't see it being a plus or a minus or anything for you, at least for 20 years.
Could I just a reminder that we are not trying to establish something new.
Yeah.
The commercial locational criteria has been in the books for many, many years.
Yes.
So the job
Well,
that we have in our
that's
hands.
something I didn't know, but it's not going to affect us. We have a place in the community plan where commercial will go when it's decided that you're going to be able to build in that part of Little Manatee South. It hasn't been decided. It's probably out 2045 if you ask Melissa or Anita. I'm just telling you because
Yes.
I watch this closely.
Thank you. Thank you for your input.
Great.
All right, next we have Simon Boland. Simon, you can unmute yourself whenever you like.
Thanks. I'm the agribusiness development manager for Hillsborough County Economic Development, for those on the call. And there's a big difference between Keystone and Riverview, what Riverview has become, and the Waimama area and further south, and trying to make a plan that covers all of that. I think one of the big things is roads. The county just hasn't invested. They're leaving it up to the developer to invest in the roads, and the county is taking a very hands-off approach. And that works when 20 years ago, but when there's new developments going in or houses going in every 5 acres, the volume, the traffic on those on a 2-lane narrow road like up in Keystone with no shoulder, the roads need to be widened. In the Balm area, I went to a planning commission meeting several months ago in Balm at 3:30 in the afternoon, and it took me 1 hour to get between 41 and 301 on 672 there. There's no reason that should happen. That wasn't the case 8 years ago. It's just because there's more houses. And so I think roads is one thing, and where somebody might be biking in Riverview area, no one is going to bike in Waimama or in Keystone. I mean, you're taking your life in your own hands, and the distances are just too far. So that's not an issue. And you talk about agricultural traffic. A farmer doesn't have any problem driving 20 miles to get to work or to the store or whatever, but if it takes an hour and a half to do it, then they have a problem with that. And again, that's going back to roads. Those would be my comments on this plan.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Next, we have Barbara Adderhold. Barbara, you can unmute yourself whenever you like.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me now?
We can.
I am in the Keystone Odessa planning area, and of course, when I see red is when people want to 4-lane our roads. I think we can do other things with the roads, besides 4-laning them. And my question is, in the rural service area, are you looking to change the locational criteria distances at all? I don't think we need a small coffee shop or whatever on every corner in Keystone. We do have where we want to push development to a particular area at Gunn and North Mobley, but what some things are happening is that it's also in a Van Dyke and Gunn highway is where there is more commercial, if you will, larger nodes. But I would really be interested in, if you're going to look at the distance requirements in the rural service area, right now it does differentiate. So we get a little bit of protection, but not a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no other hands raised.
Yeah, and I think Barbara, just to address your question, I think at this point, we're not sure what is going to change. This is part of the info gathering of the stakeholder meeting and the various community meetings, and we're meeting with the Board of County Commissioners individually. We're going to have an info gathering session with the planning commissioners in one meeting. So I think all of these meetings are going to inform what eventually, I mean, in addition to so many other things, all the research, the documents, and the literature review is going to inform how we move forward. So this, I mean, your input is important at this part of the process, but at this point, we do not have a draft available yet. This is part of the before we get to the draft.
Okay, Trinity Miller has raised her hand. Trinity, you can unmute at any point.
Hi, everybody. I'm Trinity Miller from Hillsborough County Affordable Housing. I just wanted to share that during a recent public consultation period for our neighborhood revitalization strategy areas, we did receive some comments related to the types of development and shopping facilities that residents would like to see in their neighborhoods. And some of the comments mentioned commercial areas along the lines of what you all asked in the polling that included Starbucks, daycares, fitness studios, pharmacies, grocery stores, and places for teenagers. So I just wanted to share that so that it was noted for the record.
Do you have some type of document that summarizes the findings or anything that you could share with us?
Yeah. I might be able to get that to you all. Absolutely.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Do you have, and Trinity, I can send you an email so you have mine. You can just send it to me and I can help distribute it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Looks like Charles has a question. I think we need to unmute Charles. I'll try to. Okay. Can you hear me, Charles?
Sure.
Okay.
Mine's more of a comment, having lived in various communities, including Tampa Heights, Hyde Park, Davis Island, currently in Carrollwood. Walkability and desirability of Davis Island was my favorite. However, my father lives in Safety Harbor, and that is, to me, the ideal situation with Main Street and secondary services on the first streets off of Main Street, but then all the residential behind it. This is the downtown Safety Harbor, and it's very successful right now. I mean, the place is booming. But, you know, I love living in Carrollwood, but I drive everywhere. There's no, even though it's a mile to the store, I'm not walking. But Davis Island was really nice. It's just super unaffordable right now. But set up where there's neighborhood commercial with services behind, and then residential seems to be the best model in my opinion.
Great, thank you.
We have about 5 more minutes. Do we have any more questions or comments?
I don't see any other hands up. So any others in the chat? I don't see anybody else.
And Pat, if you don't mind posting the project website within the chat if you haven't already, or if someone.
Yep, I have.
I posted the project website and the community meeting registration link in the chat.
Perfect. On top of it. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we certainly encourage everyone to go to the project website, post their comments there. Your community has a lot to say, and they're going to want to see what thought leaders like yourself, community leaders, and residential leaders like yourself have to say, and so they can upvote and downvote them. And maybe they don't have the words to express themselves, so it's really important that you put your opinions in there and let them, contribute to what you have to say. All right. No
Yes,
more
thank you everyone for attending. I know your time is valuable. We really appreciate you spending this hour with us.
Yes, thank you so much. And we hope to see you at November 1st, the public workshop. All right.